Hello, my name is Emily Hargrove, and I am NSSGA's Director of Occupational Safety and Health. I'm the host of the podcast Safety Shorts. Each episode will just be 3 to 5 minutes long, hopefully the perfect bite-sized portion so you always have time for an episode. Whether it's tuning in for a toolbox talk or just tuning in to see what's new and reflect on safety. From this series, you can expect to hear safety tips, learn about new ideas, and most of all, listen to safety stories from our industry guests and hear about their lessons learned. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Safety Shorts. This year, NSSGA is celebrating its 25th anniversary. A lot has changed in the industry over the last 25 years, including how we think about safety, health, and training. Today on the podcast, I'm joined by Shea Davis, Regional Operations Manager for CDE USA, to share his safety story about training. Shea, welcome, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you for having me. So I want to talk about today about how the generational shifts and new workers perceive IMSA training when they're coming into the industry. I remember years ago when I received my first IMSA training, it was totally different compared to how it's done now. It was very monotone, very cut and dry, and the information wasn't shared the way it is now. The information that I was being trained on wasn't retained the way it is now. And the reason for that is the Gen Z and millennials that's coming through the industry now, they expect more interactive real-world applications, and they have less tolerance for outdated and passive learning formats. So with that, I want to dive into a story of my own that revolves around the training I received or training I didn't receive. Early on in my career, when I was still working in the field, I started out in maintenance doing, your general maintenance, splicing belts in the plants. And when I was still working on my tools, I was working on a tail pulley or instructed to work on a tail pulley guard that had been hit by a piece of equipment and it was torn beyond repair. When I was preparing the guard, I was told that we had to rush, get the plant up and running because the plant was down so we can make this repair and go on for the day. So time was against me. When I was using an angle grinder, the guard that was on it, I actually didn't know any better. So I repositioned the guard off to the side so I can get into a tight angle and perform some work. So when I repositioned that guard to give me more room, without thinking, went straight to work, started grinding on some metal. The grinder ended up catching a side piece of the angle iron that I was working on, which would not have been an issue if I had not repositioned the guard. By doing so, the grinder kicked back at me. It came across the top of my hand, cut through my glove, cut through a couple fingers. While doing so, this resulted in a trip to the emergency room. I received several stitches, also a few days' work. So now I had a lost time accident. And it was unfortunate, but it was very early on in my career. When I was just entering the industry, only the basic power tool safety topics were covered. But when we see in the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s, you start hearing more about these Take 5 initiatives, the Stop, Think, Identify, Plan, Proceed, or SLAM risk programs. The acronyms for SLAM is Stop, Look, Analyze, and Manage, or other similar safety processes. If I had known or been trained to do these small little exercises, this may not have happened at all. If I had been trained to do so, I would have had that chance to stop, take those extra few moments to assess the situation, look at the work that was needing done, have a second thought, and possibly ask myself, is there a safer way to do this? What are some of the best practices I can do? But I don't know what I don't know if I'm not trained on it. So that's how I've seen training evolve over the years. These are just some of the things that are taught in modern training that the people in the industry that's been here 20, 30 years did not receive. So that's a big part of the type of content that's being delivered. And in today's time, I feel having a good safety program and to foster that great safety culture in your company, being able to provide good quality safety content that will get the newcomers coming into the industry engaged in learning these best practices and to be able to deliver the training in a way that the younger generation can relate to. So in my opinion, I think if a company has a good VFL program or visible felt leadership program, it's a great way to establish and enforce training. And it's not just for the leadership, but it gets the hourly employees involved as well. It gets participation into the safety culture that we're trying to build. If you have any type of training or a subject matter that you're covering in your training, you have that aha moment, then really try to focus on that and try to deliver that in your training the best way possible. That's how the younger generation in this industry is going to pick up that training and retain it. We as safety professionals, we have a major responsibility to deliver quality safety content in ways that inexperienced people can retain that information that they learn and they utilize it when they're on site and in the field. Being able to provide the content is important to the younger generation of workers coming into the industry because they're the ones that are going to drive our industry in the future. And we have a responsibility to train them in a way that they go on to have safe careers and they can pass on these safety best practices down to the generations after them. So that's why I think it's important that safety has evolved over the years, because safety training matters beyond compliance. It's about saving lives and building better workplaces.
Thank you so much, Shea. We really appreciate your insights. And you're right. It is absolutely crucial to have training that is practical, interactive, understandable to the workforce, and keeps up with changes, both in the substance of the training and how employees learn. Thank you again for being here. Thank you all for tuning in today. Until next time, I'm Emily Hargrove. Stay safe.